Rushing Park, north of Katy, Texas, and we're going to continue our testing of beta firmware version 0510. It's very windy out here today. I just measured with a electronic anemometer at ground level. It's 12-mile-an-hour winds basically to the northwest. We're going to go up and see how high the winds are above ground where we're going to be doing some flying. So we'll go ahead and take off, use the precision takeoff, precisely record takeoff point, checkbox, slide to the right. And I'm going to go up and forward. I'll go up to about 350 feet. Already getting the warning messages right after takeoff about too much high wind velocity, which is legitimate. Aircraft's doing a pretty good job of maintaining a level gimbal horizon, though, even with this windy and gusty condition. Alright, 352 feet. We're in PGPS mode, so we're holding stable hover. Very level gimbal horizon. Let's do a few adjustments here. First, let's get the exposure. Alright. We'll lock that in. And we'll go to autofocus. Okay. So the way to easily test wind speeds above ground level is to switch to ADI mode, where it's safe to do so, and just let the aircraft drift with the wind, and the app will tell you exactly the direction and the speed of the above ground winds. So we're going to do that now, switching to ADI mode, going up to 8 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, drifting basically to the north-northwest, 15 miles an hour, 16 miles an hour. Seems to be leveling out velocity wise. So there you go, 16 mile an hour winds is what we're dealing with today to the northwest. Switch it back to PGPS mode. And now we're going to first fly directly into the wind. And we've got a nice level horizon out there, so here we go, full speed into the wind in PGPS mode. Getting up to about 30 miles an hour, fighting the wind. So directly into the wind, other than the load on the motors, is not too bad on the gimbal. But still, it's maintaining a nice stable level. Now we'll go backwards. So the wind will actually be assisting us in this backward flight. We should get even faster with full stick. Alright, there's full stick. Yeah, 38, 39. Maintaining a level horizon, no problem. Okay, now we're going to do what's a little more difficult. I'll turn the aircraft so the wind is coming basically from its right side. That's about directly. Alright. So now we'll first fly into the wind, and this is going to be challenging. And here we go. Alright, I'm flying 20 miles an hour into a 16 mile an hour side wind. And the gimbal is, and there's an issue for. I also have to notice, I mentioned I've got the Polar Pro ND plus polarized filters on, which are heavier than the original Phantom 4 Pro lens. And I've noticed this before, and I'm not too disappointed in this. This is not something you would typically have to do, fly sideways at high speed into a 16 mile an hour wind. At lower speeds, the gimbal motor can handle it. Here I'm doing 17 miles an hour. And it's maintaining a nice level gimbal horizon. Now I'm going to let it stop. And now I will fly. Now the wind will be pushing me in the same direction I'm going to be flying sideways. I don't think we'll have the same problem with the gimbal flopping over. And you notice we can get up to quite a good speed here, 38 miles an hour. That's full stick. So obviously flying into the wind, the aircraft has to rotate, tilt even more at higher speeds, and the gimbal is at its limits as far as, and that's why I think the speed is actually lowered a little bit. Okay, that's great. Now let's go ahead and do a see how well the aircraft does doing a precision landing in 16 mile an hour winds, 12 at ground level. Alright. As usual, the aircraft immediately turns, points directly at the home point, is now flying back 600 feet away. I'll tilt the gimbal down so you can see exactly where. See that little yellow circle down there is the landing pad. Alright, camera's now pointed straight down. Struggling to get centered directly. There we go. So now it's turning directly to resume to the original takeoff orientation. And we're descending. 275 feet, 250, 150, we're going to see if we get any messages here about it looking for landing point. Nothing yet. 35 feet. There it is. Precision landing, locating landing point. Wow, phenomenal. Landed completely on the disc. We're about 4 inches to the left and 1 inch forward of where it took off in 12 mile an hour winds. Realizing that it also had to record that takeoff point with 12 mile an hour winds, and I'm not exactly sure how it does that, because as soon as it goes up, the aircraft is pushed in the direction of the wind a couple feet. It then rises to 19 feet. I see it trying to adjust a little bit to try to center itself, but when it takes that picture with the lower facing cameras, it is not directly over the takeoff point by a couple of feet, and so it is somehow correcting for drift and using the exact GPS location to take off. That's my only guess.